Hello fellow hunters of the night, this is Omega Ace Gaming with a post-commentary for my no-death run of Castlevania The Adventure. I've included a link in the description for anybody who simply wants to watch gameplay without the commentary and the overlays, all that stuff. So if you prefer raw gameplay, check it out. So, we're immediately introduced to the game with the opening track, Battle of the Holy. I don't recall if this was used in any other Castlevania game. However, it was initially meant to be used in the remake of Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth. For anybody who's curious about this unused track, I'll be sure to include it in the description of the video. Many people tend to skip this Game Boy game because of the remake, but I highly suggest you play both because they're radically different. As far as collectibles go, there are hearts and flashing hearts which restore your health, the 1-up, the cross of gold which makes you invincible for about 10 seconds, the crystal which powers up your whip, and the valuable coin. Yeah, they call it that in the manual, which nets you additional lives for the first 10,000 points, and every 20,000 points after that. I know the game has its fair share of issues, including slow movement, flickering, and the ginormous hitbox on Christopher Belmont, but once you get used to the problems, there's a lot of fun here. For anybody who dislikes the overall pace of the game, there is an official release of a faster version, which was released for the Game Boy Color in Europe back in 2000, called Konami Game Boy Collection Volume 1. For anyone curious about where this fits in the overall timeline, the adventure takes place in 1576. That's a century after Castlevania 3 for the NES. There's really not much of a story here compared to some of the other titles, but that does get corrected in the sequel, Belmont's Revenge. Now I have to point out that if you continue climbing this rope right here, past the ceiling, there is a hidden room there. Sadly, I forgot to include it in this run. In this secret room, you'll find a valuable coin, a crystal, a 1-up, and a flashing heart. The candle in the far distance here contains a 1-up, so keep this in mind when playing the game. You can get it with a fully upgraded whip. You might even be able to get it by just jumping far enough and swinging. A lot of people tend to have issues with this section that's coming up right here. But if you line up the jumps in this game, with Christopher's rear boot with the end of each platform, you really shouldn't have too much of a problem measuring the distances. As you saw, I did that right before I jumped there. In fact, every time there's a large gap in the game, I tend to do that. I tend to measure my jumps. You can see it right here, actually. It's right there. See how I just measure it every time I jump? It's good to pause. I mean, you know, it's good to pause and then just take your time with the jumps. There really isn't that big of a sense of urgency. The time limit's pretty generous in the game. You'll rarely die from the timer. So here's the first boss of the game, Gobans. This big guy becomes a regular enemy towards the end of the game. If you maintain a safe distance with an upgraded whip and attack aggressively, he's really not that bad. As you can see, it just... yeah, there he is. He's dead. So here's another song for you audiophiles out there. This one's simply called Darkness. It's not my favorite song in the series, but it's alright. I found this particular section of the level kind of annoying because of the amount of bats. Fortunately, they give you a cross of gold there, so it definitely alleviates the difficulty of this area here. we're now introduced to an enemy unique to the Christopher Belmont games, Punaguchi. It looks so freaking weird, right? I've often heard it compared to a sock puppet. To me, it resembles a hand that tosses coins. The trajectory of the coins really screws with me since they sometimes throw it upwards and other times downwards. And here's another new enemy coming up right here. This boomerang blade tosser, his name is Zeldo. Not Zelda, Zeldo. And something else worth noting about the Zeldo enemy is that it's actually called Night Stalker in Japan. These days, a little known fact is that Christopher Belmont actually had a very brief licensed comic series back in 2005 titled Castlevania The Belmont Legacy. It was published by IDW Publishing, written by Mark Andraco, and drawn by E.J. Sue. The story is mainly based on this game, but with a few odd additions, including Christopher Belmont's wife Ileana Belmont, and the Toyoden family, which safeguard the vampire killer with, much like the Morris family did from Bloodlines and Portrait of Ruin. This comic series was actually really brief. It only ran 5 issues. The art was decent, and for fans of the franchise like me, it's nice to have more depth, especially for a game with little to no story. For anybody who struggles on this bridge, remember that you can blow up the eyeballs, or big eyes as the manual calls them. So take advantage and destroy one behind you every so often so you don't have to worry about them jumping from both directions. As for the ones in front of you, simply jump over them Donkey Kong Jumpman style. As long as you take your time here, it's really not that challenging of a level. I'd say the difficulty really ramps up stage 3 onwards. You just need to be mindful of the enemies around you. So, at this point in the caverns, the direction you go does matter. If you go the wrong way, parts of the stage repeat. So at this point here, you first want to go right. And then left. So here's the second stage's hidden room. By the way, every single stage has a single secret room. Using a Big Eye's destructive power, you can blow up the center platform and climb down. In this room, you'll find a valuable coin, flashing heart, crystal, and a 1-up. Then here's another Punaguchi tossing the coins. In Belmont's Revenge, the coins kind of resemble nickels to me. You know, like 5-cent coins in the US, they call them nickels. I think that's kind of funny. And here's another Zeldo. It might be my favorite enemy in the game, actually. I like his design. I kind of wish he was in other games. For whatever reason, I climbed this rope up and then down, but you really don't need to do that. Just climb down and you'll reach the game's next boss. It's an army of under moles. So these guys are pretty simple to take out as long as you're in the position to take them out as they spawn. Kind of just stand directly underneath them, and you let them land and you whip them. One on the left you can take out with the fireball, and if not, you can kind of measure the distance that he jumps. It's really not that bad. The one on the bottom right you can just wipe out immediately as soon as he spawns. For anybody curious, the song that plays during the first 3 boss battles is called Kill, Kill, Kill. I'm sure whoever named this song put a lot of thought into it. Pixel Ghostrick, he's an awesome content creator as well. He's a big Castlevania fan. him and I were playing with the idea of creating a top 5 best Castlevania bosses and top 5 worst. And Pixel Ghostrick actually put this specific boss here as one of the top 5 worst, and I think I agree with him. Now here's an upbeat track. Stage 3's song is called Death Fair. This track will become unforgettable for anybody new to the game. Those spikes are deadly. The 1-up I just acquired here, it can't be jump whipped, so you need to either have a fully upgraded whip, or you need to lower the map by allowing the spinning gear right here to bring the candle low enough for you to go backtrack and whip. When I was new to Castlevania and tried to collect the entire series, I didn't have a credit card or a computer, so I had to hunt down the games through unconventional means, especially since I was collecting them complete in box. One of these means was through my high school friend Garrett. He had a credit card and an eBay account, so I'd ask him to get these games for me, and I would pay him back for them. Thinking back, it was really cool of him to do that for me. And just when you think the spikes are over with, they come at you from below the screen. This level has no chill. As far as measuring the distance needed to jump off ropes at the right time, I'd say measure your jump distances with the bricks on the side of the map and jump accordingly. This helps me a lot. This was the level that took me the longest to get used to, in fact. It's so hectic all the way up until the end, and you don't really get a lot of breathing room or time to plan your next move. The Death Fair waits for no one. For anybody who struggles with the speed of the spikes, I suggest you let a few candles go. They slow you down every time you whip them, and the cost is too high. Here's another moment where I used the bricks to measure the distance I jumped. I actually cut it really close there. But if you kind of just gauge yourself with the bricks on the sides of the map, it helps a lot. It's also worth noting that you want to watch out when you whip the she-worm enemies. If your whip's not upgraded or your fireball hits them, they end up rolling and bouncing off obstacles. As far as this no death run goes, for me, I'd say this level here was one of the biggest sighs of relief whenever I cleared it. Between this level and the last level, I'd say this might be the tougher one of the two, once you get used to both. I kind of see the last level as sort of a brisk walk to Dracula, as long as you take your time. And this jump right here, you actually do want to wait a little bit, because if you end up going faster than the scrolling camera, you'll actually end up hitting the ceiling, and it won't let you go all the way up, so it's good to pause there for a moment. Same goes for this one here. You want to wait for the screen to scroll up a little higher. And again, you wanna keep moving here, because even though you can't see them yet, there are spikes coming from the right side of the screen, and they do catch up really quickly. This level's an interesting combination of taking your time and rushing as you go, because you don't have a lot of time to measure your jumps and stuff, but it's really important to. And as you saw, the spikes are already starting to reach me. I'm just gonna take this moment of downtime here to just thank everybody for supporting my channel. It's really, really cool that everybody shares a similar passion for gaming as I do. And for those of you that are, you know, Castlevania enthusiasts, this one's for you guys. As you see there, you're supposed to measure the jumps just like you did in the first level. Only the stakes are raised here because there's no platform on the bottom, so you have to be sure you get the distance right. Otherwise, you fall and you die, and it's over. So here's a silly bit of trivia. The Mudman enemies that are in this level are mistakenly called Madman in the game's instruction manual. I don't think that was intentional. I'm pretty sure that was some kind of typo that was overlooked, because I don't know why you would call a Mudman a Madman, but I think it's pretty funny. And once you climb this rope, you're home free. And the next secret of the level is right here. If you look at the brick pattern, you're given a sort of a clue. So if you jump to the right, you clip through the wall and end up in a room with a heart, a 1-up, and a crystal. Pretty convenient, considering the boss is on the very next screen. It's almost as if the game developers didn't want you to have too tough of a time against this boss, considering what they just put you through. And here's the Stage 3 boss, Deathbat. From what I heard, there's a trick that involves positioning yourself with this ledge right here on the far right. Apparently, if your position and your timing are perfect, the Deathbat can't attack you. I'm still like exploring this, but thankfully the boss is not all that bad. And here's the game's final level. Pretty quick, right? The game's final stage theme, by the way, is called Revenge. You'll soon notice that some of the evil armors in the background come to life. They're the last new enemy introduced in the game. From here on, it's familiar enemies up until the big bad Drac. You'll notice I neutral jump at every candle as opposed to jumping forward, because there were several instances where I would jump forward to whip the candle, and I would actually end up landing right on top of these enemies here. And here's another Zeldo. There's quite a few Zeldos in this level, actually. And lo and behold, here's the return of the boss Gobans from the first stage. From watching Heavywaves streaming the adventure, I actually found out from one of his viewers a really useful method to get around those guys when your whip isn't powered up. So a lot of people tend to shy away from taking damage, but if you face away from the Gobans and you let him hit you, you're able to just walk past him after that and keep going. And it saves you the grief of trying to kill him slowly with the leather whip, because it actually takes too long to kill him, and if you don't do it fast enough, another one ends up spawning in his place. These Punaguchis here, or the coin-tossing hands as I call them, they're a real nuisance for me, but with time, patience, and some damage, I barely made it past them. In fact, you're gonna see one hit me right. I think it's right here. I get hit by this. Yeah, this guy right here. The timing of the bouncing off the ceiling. Yeah, there it is. It threw me all out of whack, and you can actually see I got visibly frustrated there when he hit me. So to the left of this Punaguchi, there's a heart, and I believe that was a whip upgrade. So it's worth going to the left, but you do have to kind of creep forward to let him respawn and shoot his coin, because if you don't, you'll risk it bouncing back and hitting you. And here's more spikes. Konami and spikes. Castlevania and spikes. They sure love their spikes. Unfortunately, I did fall prey to these spikes quite a few times during my no death run attempts. Maybe not in the double digits, but enough times to where I became overly paranoid and super cautious. But being more careful isn't really a bad thing. So I actually want to take a moment to just admire the background in this particular screen here. Behind the Zeldos, you'll notice the swords, the chandeliers, and the windows, and the pillars. So, just above the Zeldo is an invisible platform and rope that leads to the game's final secret room. You can kind of see an opening if you look along the edge there of the ceiling in the brick pattern. And I feel that's a pretty neat clue to the secret being here. The secret room has a 1-up, a flashing heart, and a crystal. For me, that flashing heart's a game changer. For those who don't know the difference, flashing heart completely restores your life, unlike the regular heart, which only restores some of it. If you're ever at this point in the level and you don't have an upgraded whip, just remember the trick that I mentioned earlier, and that's to face away from the Gobans, let him hit you, and then just move past them. Otherwise, you're going to be in this screen a long time. You're going to waste a lot of time backtracking and whipping them, backtracking and whipping them, and they're just going to keep spawning. Now, I'm not saying that it's not possible to do it without taking the damage here, but I don't really think it's worth it. And here's the final screen before the Dracula room. You get an upgrade and some items there. So Dracula's first form isn't too bad. All you really need to do is alternate between jumping and whipping. And if you retain your chain whip, the damage output makes it go by really fast. I believe the damage output is double when you have a chain whip, so I don't want to say it's, critical, but it definitely helps to have a chain whip here. It makes the fight go much, much faster. So you can see that immediately after taking out his first form, I scramble to that upper left platform. Here I'm supposed to jump and whip as he approaches and flies away. It's generally safer to only attack when he's flying away from you, but you can eliminate him a lot faster if you time it correctly. When he stops flying, he drops 3 bats. All you need to do is whip the trio without jumping, and you just go back to the normal routine. And as you saw there, right before I managed to kill him, you'll notice I took a hit by mistiming my jump at the end. I took a lot of damage as a result, but I did manage to reposition myself. and that's the game. Something that I decided to start doing is to dedicate my no death runs to different people. And this one here is going to be dedicated to my buddy Heavywaves. Were it not for him, I wouldn't have gotten into streaming, and watching him play through this game for the first time on Twitch was awesome. Being as rough as it is, the game would have discouraged most players, but he powered through it, and he kept a cool head doing it, and eventually he came out on top. For those of you that want to check him out, I did include a link to his channel in the description. I may consider pursuing a no-death run on the color version of this game in the future. I feel that the different pace may make the game different enough to warrant its own video. I doubt I would make this kind of commentary for it, but who knows. And the song that plays here, The Legend of Dracula, is actually named after the Japanese title, Dracula Densetsu, which translates to the Legend of Dracula. And if you resume the game from here, the difficulty does go up. The damage increases twofold with every successful playthrough, until the game's enemies eventually kill you in a single hit. This happens once you reach stage 17 of the game. And here we're met with a brief post-credits scene of Dracula flying out of the rubble, with the game's final song reprise, setting things up for the fantastic sequel that's Belmont's Revenge. As soon as I finish editing that no death run, I'm going to upload it, so definitely tune in. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the like button, subscribing, and turning on the notifications, as it does help with the channel going. This is Omega Ace Gaming. Have a great rest of your day.